Advice time with William Joseph Communications. Ryan Townend, President, CEO. The King Kahuna joins us now. And today we're talking about logos and the importance of logos. I'm not going to lie to you, I get a little salivating whenever I see the golden arches, for instance. How powerful can logos be?
Well, logos are very powerful, Kevin. That's your company's signature, right? So when you think about the most important piece of creative that you're ever going to design for your company, it's going to be your logo.
And what's the importance of a logo? How do you even benchmark that?
Yeah, well, you know, we have to strategically think what your logo is going to tell. So there's a story behind it. It's going to encompass who your company is and what customers are going to experience. So it's giving you a little insight into the window of what your company is all about. And, you know, so there's a science to the logo, but we also have to make sure that the logo is usable in the marketplace, right? So there's a whole bunch of tricks that designers use or things that they consider when creating a logo.
Such as?
Oh, goodness. Well, you know, when we look at designing logos, we want to make sure that the logo is very simple and clean so that you can reproduce it, right? So you have to think like your logo is going to be on the size of a pen. It's going to be on a pen, but it could be on the size of a building, right? So the whole idea is scalability, reproducibility, clarity. We have something called the squint test. So there's times when you see a logo in a distance and you should be able to recognize it, right? So here's a great example where you can look at this logo and say, okay, I can see what that logo is, you know, even from a distance. Where bad examples of logos are when you kind of look at them and maybe the wrong part showing. So we really want to make sure that it's pretty recognizable in the market.
So it has to be simple enough to be able to see with the squint test, but also complex enough to get across a message.
Yeah, it has to tell a big story.
Okay, that's pretty complicated. What are some good examples?
Yeah, so, well, and this is the example of the squint test showing you what's a bad logo. So in this case, what you're seeing is established 2014. That's the clearest part. You should be seeing the graphic, right? So that's a bad example. Yeah, so when we design logos, there's three different directions a logo could take conceptually. It could have no direct meaning. It could just be a pretty picture. It could have a hidden meaning, or it could be very direct, right? So we'll show you some examples as to what I mean by those three. So here's an example of Kodak. So the word Kodak itself has no meaning. George Eastman liked the letter K. He was fond of it, and, well, the rest is history, right? So that logo is just made up, right? Mercedes has a great example of a logo with a hidden meaning in it. So the 3 points of the star actually stand for the 3 types of engines that they built.
Yeah, it was auto, motorcycle, and airplanes, and that's why it's also shaped like a propeller.
Smart.
Haha, I knew things about that one.
You researched that, didn't you? And then let's look at a really direct example. So in the case of Apple, they actually created a logo that was an apple, right? So that's a very direct example of a logo representing the name of the company. And then you can have a combination where Apple actually went and put the rainbow colors through the logo. And in that case, it was done for nothing other than energy. They say that the green was at the top to represent the stem. So that shows you some different conceptual directions a logo could take.
And meanwhile, I also want to note about this one. If you look up, Google this, Apple geometry. You can actually see that it's all done with angles in such a way that it has deeper hidden meanings. It's crazy.
Brilliant.
Yeah, it really is brilliant. Just the Apple. Well, was there anything else you wanted to touch on when it comes to logos?
No, you know, I think it's a whole science in itself. There's this whole strategic part that comes to creating what a logo should represent in the company and in the public space, but there's this whole art behind bringing that to life, right? So there's a whole design sensibility that's required, and it has to be timeless. You look at logos like Pepsi and Coke, they've been around for decades and are still super powerful.
Marketing, it's art. It's also got a bit of science behind it. Ryan, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
For another edition of Advice.